Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm Daz and I've got Steve with me as always. And today's guest is Mike Nevin, who is Director of Lobscouse and also a freelance writer with the Anfield Index. Hiya, Mike.
Hello there. How are we? Hello to Austin, Texas, where I've been. I think 3 times. I used to work for a publishing company that sold stuff to schools. And when the schools weren't in England, they used to send me abroad, and generally to the States. And they sent me once to Texas, and I ended up in Houston, San Antonio, and then in Austin. And I liked Austin that much. I made out that there was a really strong market for the stuff that we were selling. There wasn't at all, but it meant that I was able to go back another 2 times. So I sort of fell in love a little bit with Austin, even the heat.
I think everyone does when they come here. I mean, I did.
Yeah.
Well, that's because we're the only city in Texas that actually reads.
The cheek on you, Steve. Yeah, to all the San Antonio, Houston, and Dallas people that are listening, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, I mean, I must say though, I mean, just walking down 6th Street. It was a little bit like a home from home, because I mean, obviously Liverpool's got a very strong music connection, and some of the bands and some of the musicians I saw there night after night, and I was thinking any one of these could be Kings of Leon, it could be, you know, sort of Stereophonics, they could have been anyone, equally as talented, but just seemed to be quite happy sort of bumming around, getting a few dollars, and playing live in front of about 30-40 people who were steadily getting drunker and drunker as the night went on, and that was me. That was it. Yeah, I was meant to be working, but it was a bit of a busman's holiday, really.
Yeah, working. Yeah,
working like now. chat and wham, as the youngsters say.
Yeah, can't keep up with their lingo these days.
No, neither can I. I mean, my son calls me lad. I mean, which is, you know, there's 30 years between us, and I'm lad. I said, hang on, you've got one letter out of place there. It's dad, you know. Nah, lad. It's not dad, lad. It's not dad, lad. It's lad.
Well, you know, he's got to say that in front of his mates as well.
That's
you know?
it. That's it. Yeah.
It'd be out of place if he said dad.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And at the age of 22, it's all about reputation. It's all about having the right North Face jacket, the right Berghaus trousers, and generally going around looking like a mountaineer.
Yeah, like we were talking, Mike. Yeah, you know, it's like the I call them the clobber brigade.
The clobber brigade.
That's what they are. You know, like
it is.
And it's all of them. All their mates look exactly the same. Like, you know, I know you back in the days as well. Probably like a casual.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But we didn't all look the same. But now everybody kind of looks the same.
Well, I've just in the backdrop there, I've got my eye on looks like about 10 or 12 pairs of very nice Adidas originals there. So in the true Scouts tradition, I'll probably have a pair off them, and you won't even realise.
Yeah, I know. Oh man,
that's only a quarter of his collection.
Yeah, that's only a quarter. That's just my, you know.
That's just your show reel.
Yeah. I've got you know, the original boxes all in back there, about another 100 pair.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, it is very much part of the Liverpool culture, and talking about the young lads today. But really, what they're doing is just recreating what we did in terms of having like a uniform. You say like different colours. I think that was it. I mean, for me, I think in the 80s, it was like a Sergio Tacchini tracksuit. And the bottoms were ridiculous. They were actually semi-flared.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't the bottoms, you'd probably match them with maybe a pair of drain pipe cords, and probably a pair of Adidas Samba. And to be honest with you, I still dress the same way today. Got skinny jeans. I've got skinny jeans on here. I've got a pair of Nike 110s on, which is the choice for the lads. But they call them 110s because they're 110 quid.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, they're Nike Air Max. So yeah, and I've got a posh jacket on here, Prada jacket. But the jeans,
look at you.
But the thing is, and I actually bought this in the States, but I've matched them up with my skinny jeans from Primark, which is like the cheap shop. See, Prada and Primark, the 2 PRs. There was another brilliant joke as well. But for lads who didn't have as much money, say, you know that Armani, you don't bother with Armani, you just wear our fills.
Well, I mean, you know, I used to have the Adidas with the 4 stripes.
Yeah.
Those are brill.
Oh,
I would
fantastic.
I would actually take them and then rip off that 4th stripe,
Yeah.
you know, to make them look like they're Adidas. But
or get a felt tip pen and add plenty of ink to colour it in.
yeah. Oh, the things we used to do,
Indeed.
especially like with patches as well. Like the jeans, like Lee jeans, were really
Yeah.
big. Yeah,
That's right.
I used to go in the store and get the back off the Lee jeans, the little patch, and then back in the day, the big thing was actually to put the patch on your flares, like at the bottom. So I got me nan to do all that. But yeah, they weren't Lee jeans either. They were just, you know, whatever. But yeah, the great things we do. But let's get on to our main thing, which is Liverpool Football Club. So Mike, I want to ask you to start out, what does Liverpool Football Club mean to you?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much everything, really. I mean, you know, in later years, it's become sort of a partial career for me, albeit that I'm working towards being a full-time journalist. But I think a lot of writers tend to sort of have 2 jobs. You know, you have a sort of a normal job, so to speak, and then what begins as a hobby, and then it's something that you can earn money on. So, just professionally, I wrote a book called On the March of Kenny's Army, which is the story of the double season in 85-86 when Kenny first took over as player manager, and then that got me recognised. I went on the Anfield Rap podcast to talk about that. Quite enjoyed it. I said I'll come again, you know, just using a bit of chic, and they said yeah. And I was on the Anfield Rap for the best part of 10 years. They had a sort of like what they call it, like a second album syndrome, where I might have fallen out with a couple of people, but nothing particularly untoward. Just, you know, you just tend to move on. And then Anfield Index realised that I wasn't working for Anfield Rap anymore, and they gave me a platform to start doing my own show. Just having a break from them at the moment whilst the close season's on. So I'm a bit of a media whore. You know, that's the thing about freelance. I'll go on anyone's show. Hence why I'm here today. No offence, but yeah, just in terms of, you know, the club itself and what it means to me. I mean, my first match, and I get ribbed for this for being a glory hunter. My first match, I was 6 years of age. It was the 1974 FA Cup final, and I had this Evertonian uncle. It's a great story, this, and he used to remind me every Wednesday after school, after, you know, well, whatever it was, very first part of primary school. And then one day my dad came to pick me up, and my Uncle Tom said, "Do you know what? You can take him home. He's a lost cause in." And my dad said, "Why has he been naughty?" He said, "No, he's been as good as gold." He said, "There's just no hope for him." He said, "What do you mean? What do you mean?" So he pressed him for about a minute or two, and he said, "What's the matter? What is the matter with him?" He said, "Everything's the matter with him. He's a dyed-in-the-wool Liverpoolian, and I can't turn him." Because Tommy was a blue. And then about a day later, he turned up at our house and gave me dad a brown envelope, which no cash in it, just 2 tickets for the '74 Cup final. So there it was, first ever game, Wembley Stadium, Liverpool 3, Newcastle 0. And yeah, it's been all sort of, I wouldn't say downhill since there, because it's, you know, it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, obviously. And then I started going to Anfield regularly around sort of 79, 80. And I had a season ticket on the cop from 82, 83. And this is mad, this, but then I left the cop in 1987 at the age of 20 because I thought I was too old for it. Because, you know, it was a place where, you know, kids could afford to pay in, going on their own or with the mates as teenagers. I generally went with my dad and my sister. But then midweek matches, when my dad was away, I'd go up on my own, get the train from Crosby, which is not too far from where you hail from, Daz, I think. Get off at Bank Hall Station, walk up to the ground, and watch most of my first European matches, Liverpool and the European Cup. And bizarrely, in those days, the European matches weren't even that well attended because they weren't included on the season tickets. And you know, we used to call the people who go in the stands the plant pots, because they'd literally be rooted to their seat, like a plant would be rooted to a plant pot. And half of them wouldn't turn up for the games they had to pay for. So those are the early memories. And then, I moved actually then to the what's now the Kenny Dalglish stand, but it was the old Kemlyn Road in those days. We had one tier, just a lower tier with an old cantilever roof, which was a bit state of the art when it was built in 1970. But I moved deliberately right next to the away fans, just because I was at that age where, Liverpool were fantastic. They won every game, just wanted a bit of interest. So I spent 2 years basically sort of arguing and swapping insults with away fans. Enjoyed that immensely. And then I moved back down the other end, same stand, and sat with my dad for the best part of about another 20 years. And then in 2008, I thought, you know what, I'm just about getting to the age where I'll never enjoy the Kop again. So I'm moving back. So that was 2008, 13 years on, I'm still there. So, yeah. And obviously, like everyone, at the moment, we're starved of being able to go to the game. Although I hear today that, there's news that some of us will be back by mid-October, which is great.
Yeah, I'm seeing, October 24th against Sheffield United.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think a game against Sheffield United will ever be as keenly anticipated. But of course, the controversy now is it's going to be like those European Cup final ballots again, isn't it? Where people are saying, well, who's going to go and who's going to get the ticket? So there's got to be some kind of rota basis, I would have thought, for the first few. So we should all get the chance to go to Anfield again in very strange circumstances. Hopefully within certainly by Christmas. I think most people who go regularly and have got season tickets will be back at Anfield, which is great. And then hopefully in the new year we can see something like a return to normality.
Yeah, I hope so, because they're going to keep all 4 sections open, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, obviously that's just maximising space, so they can fit in as many people. And to be honest with you, I was surprised to hear that as many as 12,500 might be allowed in. I thought as a test case it might be something like 3,000 to 4,000, where you can obviously appropriately socially distance and maybe have little bubbles of maybe 3 or 4 people from the same families, if that's possible. But it just seems to me as though it sounds like it's going to be 1 in 4 seats, and as I say, it's not normal, but it's better than playing behind closed doors, which I just think is the most artificial thing for footballers. I mean, I don't know how they cope. I mean, it must be like they're playing in a training session, and I think they seem to be getting used to it, because I thought even the Charity Shield was quite keenly contested last weekend. Obviously in an empty Wembley, which is a vast bowl anyway, and it looked like a proper game. But of course, you can't suspend disbelief forever, and you see those empty stands, and it just feels so weird.
Yeah, it's for me. Watching the matches, I haven't really paid too much attention. It's been on the telly.
Yeah.
But I'm doing other stuff as well. I'm not focused on it just because of the atmosphere is not there.
Yeah. Well, that's it. I mean, there's a sort of a famous banner that was created, I think, by Liverpool fans, and it was in and around the ticket protest when FSG, in their infinite wisdom, decided to move those prices up to £77. I think more through naivety more than anything else. And obviously they are businessmen. And the banner just read, "Football without fans is nothing." Intimating that if you price people out, you lose that atmosphere that ultimately underpins what people love about football. But obviously we've seen it in a different sense of late. And, football doesn't feel right without supporters. It's the people's game. And, whilst we would all love to have played, effectively us and the players are the same. We all grew up loving football. We all grew up on playing fields, 6 or 7 years of age, kicking the ball around. The difference was that some of us were better than others. I think my most glorious moment as a Liverpool player, a bit artificial this, was that I once took a penalty against Loris Karius at the academy on a Legends Day, because he wasn't playing for Germany. He was one of the few players who haven't got away. So he's in there. I said to him, "Can I take a penalty against you, Loris?" And he went, "Yes, of course, but I would save it." I said, "You won't." Anyway, I drilled it with my left foot right in the corner. He went, "Take another one." I went, "Okay, maybe you won't save this one either." I said it in the wrong way. And then I went up to him and said, "I think you're pretty crap. You'll lose us the European Cup." Shouldn't have said it, should I? Shouldn't have said it.
Oh, now we know
now
why.
It comes out.
Yeah.
It's Mike Nevin's fault.
It is indeed.
Man,
you bastard.
It's not Sergio Ramos' fault anymore. It's Mike Nevin's fault.
That's it. Mea culpa, as they say. Look at me, big hands. Bigger hands than Loris Karius.
Or Pickford.
We're going to get a lot of traffic now.
Only the truth on this show. That's all.
Yeah.
That traffic will be trying to run me over.
Yeah. Can you give us your address?
Yeah, no fixed abode.
You know, Mike, you said that you went back into the COP in 2008, and that was right at the time where you probably would hear a lot of colorful language against Hicks and Gillette. You know, that really was
absolutely.
So that's probably a good time to go back there and just be among the masses and talk about it, right?
Yeah, I think that was actually part of it. I think the initial inspiration was that I remember sitting in my seat in the Camden Road and seeing the COP bounce into the Fernando Torres song, and then the chant was like, "We're gonna bounce in a minute. We're gonna bounce in a minute." And I was like, "When I sat here next to me dad, I can't be bouncing here."
Right.
So that was the inspiration. But the season that I moved back, 2008-9, that was when a lot of the protests against Hicks and Gillette started. And I joined Spirit of Shankly on the first night that it was actually formed. So whilst not at the forefront, I wasn't in the committee. I was always on the marches and at the meetings, and then I was always in the COP at the process. And what I couldn't believe really was just how effective Hicks and Gillette were at pulling the wool over people's eyes, or that Liverpool fans just had this love of the club where they wouldn't be seen to protest against anything that the club represented, even an ownership that clearly didn't have the club's best interest at heart. So it took a lot of effort to win people round. And I think even at the height of the protests, you know, there were some fantastic marches in the streets, but in terms of people in the ground, there was never more than 5,000 people who stayed behind. You know, 50,000 would go home and then just hear about it. Oh, there was a protest, you know, but I'm not getting involved in that because, you know, I'm there to support the team. Well, the game was finished. And the very interesting thing about the COP was that there was effectively a civil war in the COP, from people like myself who felt, well, you know, this is so important. We should be protesting during the game. We should be protesting about the way that Benitez was being treated. Whereas the support the team brigade, as we call them, who are actually in the lower reaches of the COP, and generally were the ones that had actually turned against Benitez, swayed by a vicious media campaign against him. So it was almost like, I mean, I saw a fantastic film the other night, Lincoln, which is it's got obviously the American Civil War at its forefront, and it sort of reminded me of just how vicious the COP had become within itself, and there were two warring factions, and I think that's part of the modern COP history, as much as, you know, the Chelsea semi-final, the Barca semi-final. You know, I'm talking in terms of the seated COP. Probably the most interesting period in it was when effectively, you know, the COP had fallen out with itself. And yeah, you know, I was sort of in and around at the start of that and seeing it all firsthand.
You know, we had recently Peter Hooton and Karen Gill, and you know, we mentioned Spirit of Shankly. So it's always interesting to talk to somebody that was there when it first started, and just the initiatives that why it was formed, and now it's, you know, it's still a group, and they're doing great stuff within the city. So it's always interesting to,
without a doubt. I mean, obviously its initial formation was around trying to get rid of Hicks and Gillette, and ultimately, along with, you know, sort of people who sort of latched on and did their own different thing in terms of an internet campaign with the banks and stuff like that, which was proved to be very effective. You know, obviously then it got involved in ticket process. It represents people. You know, occasionally people will get into trouble, sometimes partly through their own fault, but often not. And Spirit of Shankly's represented them. They represented Michael Shields fantastically. And, you know, as I say, of late have just become probably the most recognised fans union. I mean, that's what they are. They are like a trade union for football supporters, representing us in terms of making it affordable, you know, cheaper way travel. If you're part of SOS, you can go on a coach, which, you know, it's £10 cheaper than any other way of getting to a football game. So, and Peter, I mean, I wouldn't say Peter and I are mates, but we know each other, and we're practical neighbours in the COP. I mean, I can see the back of his head from where I stand. And you know, Peter's a fascinating character. He's had such a rich sort of music career interlaced with his football. The formation of the End fanzine, which was a forerunner to all fans' social media. It was the start of it, really. So yeah, I mean, Peter's a great guy, and as I say, he's something of an icon, really, in Liverpool's social history.
Yeah, you know, we mentioned the fan zone. Can we go back to when you first you wrote your first book, what was the thought process on, hey, you know, I want to write this book?
I think I'd always wanted to write a book about Liverpool. And I mean, I chose the double season for sort of fairly obvious reasons, because, you know, obviously Kenny Dalglish comes in as player manager. That's unique in many ways. He wins the double, which makes it doubly unique. And I felt that season, because you know, our history is very much in line with European football and winning the European Cups. And, you know, people talk about Paris and Wembley and Istanbul and Rome. And some of the domestic success, because there was so much of it, just got a little bit underdocumented. And that season in particular was one that never really been written about. Now, funnily enough, since I wrote my book, then Tony Evans wrote a great one called, I've forgotten what it's called now, but a fantastic book. I read it in about a day and a half, and he credited me and my co-author in the back, which was nice of him. And me and Tony went for a couple of pints and talked about it. And then there's another lovely book out by a guy called Derek Anderson, who was the steward who looked after the photographers at Anfield, and it's called Tunnel Vision Anfield, actually. And he's actually got a diary of his press dealings, or his stewardship dealings on the day of every single home game during the 85-86 season. Nice. So now there's 3 books out that have got 85-86 as the centerpiece. The other thing for me was it was about documenting what it was like to be a Liverpool fan in the 80s, and what it was like to be from Liverpool in the 80s when, you know, Margaret Thatcher was attacking the city. And the way that we expressed ourselves, given that most of us were poor, most of us were worried about getting jobs, you know, the city really was nowhere. It was unrecognisable from the city it is today. It was so poor, and quite an ugly city in many ways, you know, in contrast to what it was like, obviously, through Victorian and Edwardian times with the buildings and stuff. But it had fallen into disrepair. And you know, generally speaking, Liverpool FC and Everton as well was the vehicle through which we were able to still express ourselves with and have a sense of pride, especially when you went to London. And when Darren and I were talking about the clobber, it was all about looking smart and looking stylish, to say to Londoners, well, you might have the money, but we've got the style and the team. And that period, mid-80s, it will always be my favourite time, because I was 17. You know, your first girl's on the go. Liverpool are successful. Kenny Dalglish is your manager. It was like a dream come true. And the thing about Kenny was, I mean, in my early teens, I thought to myself, when Kenny retires as a player, what am I going to do without him? Right. Yeah, I'm going to have the ultimate separation anxiety. So when we heard that he was going to be manager, I thought, well, Christ, we've got him for life now. Yeah. And, you know, okay, well, it didn't quite turn out like that, but it kind of did, because, you know, he's never really been away. And obviously he got to win another league at Liverpool after he'd left, when he came back with Blackburn, which was obviously a very nice moment for him, and I think the Liverpool crowd.
Yeah, you know, that's one of the things that we always try to highlight on our podcast, is just the history of Liverpool. And it's easier nowadays because you have the internet and YouTube videos that you can go back and revisit. So that's always one of the things we recommend to all our listeners and viewers, that, you know, go back and listen and learn about some of the history, especially the 80s, because, you know, that was politically a pretty dark time for Liverpool. And now when you go to the city, you see it's so vibrant, but you have to kind of know that it's been a process to get to this point.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, obviously, in terms of the city's regeneration, we got the European Capital of Culture Award in 2008, and a lot of the Objective 1 European funding that came in from the EU helped regenerate the city in terms of its economy. And obviously, the dock trade had died because the way that Liverpool really was on the wrong side of the country to trade with the EU. And the East Coast was taking the shipping trade. The docks pretty much closed down. And then obviously what happens is, because Scousers, generally speaking, are creative, intelligent people, I think more so than, you know, a lot of cities in the UK, the city reinvented itself in terms of the type of work that we did. So IT flourished, you know, obviously music, you know, the whole culture and industry around football. You know, there's so many independent firms now that sell, you know, sort of slightly off the wall clothing that, you know, it's not your merch from the club shop. And
it's the shoes with the 4 stripes, right?
That's there's the ones. So, but what's really good about the club, and I think this is where they've improved massively, is they've recognised that there's a thirst for, quite understated Liverpool merchandise, and they've actually sort of bought into these companies so that those companies can still exist on their own. Like that scarf or badge is one of them. There's quite a few of them. Love, Follow, Conquer, another one. Mate of mine, Ian Maloney, runs that. He's from Liverpool originally, and they've basically worked with the club to make what they're doing fully licensed, and at the same time use their ability to spot and create clothing that fans want to wear.
Yeah, I know you had mentioned that you worked at the Anfield Rep, and we've had the guys on the show as well, and it's an amazing way that they've built that from when they started to now. They're kind of ubiquitous, right, with the team, and so you kind of give us some overview of your time there at the Anfield Rep and just how
it was brilliant. I mean, aside from anything else, when I was in New York with them twice, and we had a fabulous time just talking to New York City Reds in the supporters club there. We took like a band over with us, the T Street band, to sort of place together the music and the football in the city's tradition, and we had a great time. And then I became famous really for the show I did on it called What We Call History, and that was effectively just looking in detail at seasons gone by, which was a nostalgia trip for people my age, because people could listen to it and say, yeah, I remember that. And I sort of got a bit of a reputation as something of a bit of a Rain Man, so it's a slightly autistic, being able to remember attendances from the 80s, like Notts County 19,904, and stupid stuff like that. So we sort of got to the point where we were running out of seasons with them, and I wanted to do something slightly different in terms of the history stuff and make it more thematic. So, for example, I might want to do a show on Liverpool in the League Cup, and we never really quite got around to discussing that. So when I joined up with Anfield Index, the show that I've done with them is called Retro Reds, which is very similar. It sort of calls on my ability to have this recall about anything that I've seen, sort of in the flesh. And then effectively, just talk about stuff that I remember. I've been very lucky to do a thing with Jan Molby, where we talked about the 84-85 season, but from through his eyes as a 20-year-old kid coming from Denmark, the first Scandinavian to play for Liverpool. And what I was able to throw into it was, well, you were playing, Jan. This is what it was like watching you, because we'd be going to Chelsea to watch you, and we'd be fighting all the way there. Or this was going on. It was it was just different times.
Was that the one where you pulled the shirt out?
The shirt out, his shirt.
And the programme as well.
Yeah, I mean, and Jan really could easily be doing the show I do on that as well, because his recall is incredible. And the nice thing for me about that is that I think you can see there is a real chemistry between us, and he's laughing along with me. And the funniest thing he said, I said on this little clip, I said, you can sign that for me later. And I was just about to say it'll double in price, that shirt, in terms of value. And he went, yeah, I'll sign it. And it'll halve in value. That brilliant self-deprecation. And, Jan's a fantastic guy. But equally, not so much through the podcast, but just through writing a few pieces. I got in touch with Graham Souness, and I've become quite good friends with Graham Souness. Spoken to him a few times. He told me a classic story not long ago. I was on my way back from Qatar after the World Cup Championship, and that was always been a dream for me, to see Liverpool become World Cup champions, because I remember us getting beat by Flamengo in 1981. So when we were playing them, I thought, I've got to be there, So anyway, coming back on sorry, when we were there, there's a Formby reference here, Darren. So some lads from Formby were talking to on the plane coming back. We'd met a guy called Junior, who played for Brazil in 82. and played for Flamengo in 81. He was there with Flamengo in Qatar as their sort of ambassador, if you like. And these lads had met him, got a picture taken with him, and he had his top off, and he absolutely ripped. He's about 66, Junior. And Graham will admit himself, he's still quite vain. He loves to look after himself. And I thought, right, I've got that picture there. Who am I going to send it to? Graham Souness. It'll really wind him up. So I sent him the picture, and I just said, this guy was asking him after about, if you want to know the story, give me a ring. The phone went literally within seconds, and Stewie just comes on the phone. He goes, "Is that Junior?" He said, "Jesus Christ, what a player he was." And then he basically said that he played him 3 times. So Flamengo, Liverpool, 3-0 to Flamengo. A year later, Scotland, Brazil, 4-1 to Brazil. He said, whenever I signed for Sampdoria, I thought, I've seen the back of him. First game he played for Sampdoria, Torino, right? Who's playing for Torino? Junior. He said, the only time they got a point, Sampdoria, Sooner scored, but missed the penalty. He said, the fella had a jinx over me, but he said, what a great guy. And he said, did you get his number? And I said, no, it's these lads from Formby who met him, not me. I just sent you the picture to wind you up. And then he said, who do you think looks better? And I said, well, you, of course. He went, you've got a brain on you. And then I also had a chat with him when Jack Charlton died. I remembered that Charlton had managed him at Middlesbrough, and he basically attributed all of his success to Jack Charlton, because Jack Charlton put him on the right track in terms of saying, you've got loads of ability, but you need to settle down, you need to train hard, you need to keep out the betting shop, you need to keep out the boozer. And he thanked Jack Charlton really for really set him on the path to join Liverpool. But he also told a fabulous story. So I said to him, give us a quote to make my piece on Jack Charlton different from any other obituary. He said, well, I've got one for you. So he said, Souness was about 19, 20 when he played for Middlesbrough. And Charlton used to pick him up from training and drop him back at his digs. He said, mainly to keep me out the booze in the betting shop. But it was like a duty of care. And he said, the thing was, I must have gotten Jack Charlton's car about 200 times over the course of 3 seasons. He said there was never less than 3 dead birds and 3 dead fish on the back, because Jack Charlton was so into hunting. So I said, well, was that his release from football? And he went, no. He said, you know what? Football was his release from fishing, because he was a world champion at football, but his dream was to be the best fisherman and the best huntsman in the world. So football was the pressure release that he had from that desire to be the best fisherman in the world. And I just thought that, and then the strap line, and I'll use a little bit of license here. So he said, Jack Charlton, his car effing stank because of all these animals in the back. So I thought, well, that's the line, that's the punchline for the article. And yeah, I'm quite proud of that. That's on my Twitter feed, which is Michael T Nevin. It's my pinned tweet. So if anyone's listening to this and wants a good read, and it's about his time at Middlesbrough under Jack Charlton, but it's very much Liverpool related, because it explains pretty much how Graham Souness ended up at Liverpool and how he became, I think, the best midfielder in our history.
Yeah, speaking of articles, before we continue, I wanted to mention to all our listeners and viewers that Mike Nevin has penned an article, and it's our first contribution on our website. So please go check it out. He's going to write on a regular basis for us, and we look forward to seeing it. And so for all our fans, please support Mike and his writings, and come to our website and see his article as well.
Yeah, it looks. I mean, it's about the one that's up there at the moment is about Alan Kennedy, who's our famous left back who scored 2 European Cup winning goals.
Yeah, we've had him here in Austin on a Legends Night, and he's
a fantastic guy, isn't he?
Yeah, and I've got to play in a couple Legends matches with him, and so we've gotten to know each other over the years, and he's such a great guy, great storyteller, and so. Tell us a little bit more about the article that you wrote about him.
Yeah, so it's called "They Shot the Wrong Kennedy," because the thing about Alan was, and he'll say himself, he probably wasn't the most talented player ever, but he was a trier, and he had a lot of natural sort of athletic ability, great pace, good left foot, obviously, because he was Liverpool left back for the best part of over a decade. And I'm not decrying his ability. He was a very good footballer, but perhaps not quite in the same class as Dalglish and Hansen and Souness, but who was, but on his debut, he had a bit of a nightmare, and Bob Paisley had signed him, and he quietly took him to one side, and he sort of said, Alan, what the hell's going on? What are you doing? I brought you here because you're meant to be knowing what to do. I don't need to tell you how to play. And he said, the way you performed there, he said, I thought, in the end, I ended up thinking, you shot the wrong Kennedy. So obviously there's a bit of there's a Dallas reference in there, then, isn't there? So I called it "They Shot the Wrong Kennedy," but obviously he goes on to have a brilliant Liverpool career, and it's a celebration really of someone that perhaps maximised their ability. And there's so many players down the years that we've had like that, just coming to mind. People like Nigel Spackman, never blessed with great ability, but a very effective player.
Yeah.
You know, I think even Phil Thompson would admit that whilst he read the game brilliantly, he never really had the physique for a centre half, but managed it. Then you've got Peter Crouch, you know, who again was a tall, gangly, most unlikely looking physical specimen to be a centre forward in many ways, albeit that he was very tall. And I think, you know, a lot of players have become the players they've become purely and simply because they've been Liverpool players and fed off the crowd and that almost like cult hero status that we often give them.
Well, you know, he's such a great ambassador for the football club. I mean, just even recently, he played in that Legends match against Real Madrid, and you could just tell when he's going out on the pitch, he still has the same excitement about putting on that red shirt after all these years. And when you watch videos of him going to different places and speaking, you just see the pride in him, and it's just, you know, it's exciting just to see the level of commitment to the club after, you know, having retired for so long, right?
Yeah, and I think, you know, you know, wholeheartedly agree with you about Alan there. I mean, he sort of just goes around with a live bird upon his chest, to coin a phrase. But they're all like that. All those '80s lads they're so invested in the club. And I thought what was lovely was the fact that, you know, it'd be very easy for them to think, you know, we were the last team to win the league. But the likes of Souness and Thompson and Dalglish and John Barnes, they're all so delighted to see Liverpool win it again, because ultimately they've become fans of Liverpool, and they've gone from, you know, they're almost like they've crossed the divide from player to supporter. And I had a fantastic weekend, midweek in northern Norway in Narvik in February with John Barnes, and I had the most fantastic evening with him. I had dinner with him and his wife and his two kids, his little boy Alexander. So Barnesy went off to speak to these Norwegian fans, and I just chatted to his missus, asking about, you know, how long they've been together, how old the kids were, what the kids' names were. And little Alexander, 7 years of age, looked like a typical Scouser. He's got that like curly wig, just knocking around in his trackie. And I said, I just pulled him to one side. I said, your dad was good at football. Do you play? And he went, yeah, of course I do. He said, you said he was good. He was terribly one-footed, wasn't he? And he was 7 years of age, this kid. And I just thought, oh my God, he's such a Scouser. And then John came back, and then we actually watched the first leg of the Atletico game together in the Narvik Norwegian Supporters Club, and it was just brilliant. But when the Liverpool were losing 1-0, and I just looked across at Digger, as I call him, I said, Digger, I said, you're worse than me, you know. Because I was all right. I was thinking, yeah, we're 1-0 down, it will be all right second leg, and I was wrong in the end. But I was relaxed about it. He was kicking every ball, and I just thought, you are a supporter, aren't you? And he denied the fact. He said, no. He said, I'm a professional, and I'm here working. And I said, well, I'm sort of here working as well, because I was talking about something that I'm writing longer term, which is a bit of a documentary I'll tell you about another time. And I just thought, nah, you are a Liverpool fan, and you're as much a fan as I am.
Well, yeah, I think the supporters that don't get to go to Liverpool and they see these legends and that they still have the passion for the club, you know, it really ties us all together. You know, I always recall that the famous video of King Kenny singing "You'll Never Walk Alone" after we beat Barca. You know, and he's just joining in song with the millions of other Reds, and at that time, you know, we're connected as one, and it's, you know, I still get goosebumps just thinking about it anyway. So.
Well, you've done that to me there a bit, Steve, because I think what I'd say is, you know, when you're reviewing sort of old video clips, I'd be more inclined to watch something like that where Kenny's singing "You Never Walk Alone" than it would be a famous goal, because I've seen the goals a million times. You know, you're almost you've overplayed them and you lose your mind's eye image of what it was like to see it when you were there. So I tend not to do that too much, but you showed me a clip of the Cop singing "You Never Walk Alone" against Barca. I'll watch that all day. You showed me Liverpool's end at Wembley in 1986, and I'll watch that all day. And I watch goal celebrations. I watch Robbie Fowler snorting the line against Everton time and time again. You know, anything that's got a bit of culture around it, as opposed to just the almost banal nature of kicking a ball into a net. I think that's my thing. I'm into the social and the cultural side of supporting Liverpool. I think if Liverpool were playing Tiddlywinks at Anfield against Everton or Man United, I'd go and watch and I'd just be as bad. The fact that it's a leather ball, immaterial, it's tribalism. And as long as it remains that way, albeit in a slightly different world that we live in, You know, it's not as raw as it was in the 80s. And, you know, there's aspects that are good and bad about that as time moves on. People are probably a little bit more sensitive to important things about, you know, sort of racial equality and gender and stuff like that, which is, you know, obviously fantastic. Yeah, they're different times, but as I say, the cultural side, the development of that, understanding the culture and the way things evolve, the way songs are kept, you know, the ones that stay and then the ones that dissolve into the past. I think that's fascinating in itself. You know, why does Scouse and Tommy still get sung?
Yeah.
Why has We Ain't Nottingham Forest, We Ain't Everton too, We Ain't Man United, We Love Liverpool, We Love You. That's died, and it shouldn't. You know, Come On You Mighty Reds is another one that's died, and it shouldn't. And yet there's others that, you know, I think are probably a bit weak. Which, and there's one in particular I can't stand. I Was Born Under the Liver Bird. I hate that song, and I think that should be binned off immediately. I mean, there's times I've thought, and it's normally sung by someone who's really trying hard, a bit too hard to be that big red. No one was born under the liver bird. Bloody hell, we're more in hospital, most of us, or at home. So, you know, but you know what I'm saying? I just think it's fascinating the way some songs will stick and stay forever.
Yeah.
Others that are brilliant just go by the wayside.
Well, it's like some, you know, some of the banners as well. They need to stick around. You know, we had Peter Carney on as well, and that's history. You know, I know he's saying these young lads are coming up with these new banners and stuff, but it's the old banners that need to stay in the cop. You know.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, obviously, you know, there's the famous Saint Etienne banner and the synonymous Rome. Joey Jones, who ate the frog's legs, made the Swiss roll, now he's munching Gladbach. I mean, that's genius. I mean, my favourite, dead simple. I was in Istanbul, and I remember taking a day off work, but I sort of blagged it a little bit. I didn't let anyone know I was going to Turkey. I just said I was having a day off. If I'm in Turkey, there's every chance I might not be back the following day, and I didn't really want to know. And seeing this banner, brilliant. It just said, "The wife thinks about work, and so does my gaffer, but I'm in the ball with Stevie and Rafa." And I just thought, that's me, that's me today. And then I've got my own banner now, which is just says the 306 Lift Crew, and it's got, on one side it's got the Liver Bird, on the other side it's got the European Cup. So nice and symmetrical. It's massive. And people say, what's the significance? Well, it's just dead easy. I'm in block 306 of the top, and we have a drink by the lift on the concourse at half time. So it's the Lift Crew, and we're in 306, the 306 Lift Crew. So that's a group of, I mean, it's my banner, but as far as I'm concerned, it belongs to everyone that all has a little baby down by the lift at half time. And most of us stay downstairs about 10 minutes into the second half because we're having a nice chat and we're catching up and we're there to see friends as much as we are to watch the Reds.
That's what it is. It's like, you know, a social event, you know, not just a football, you know, match. You go, you know, you might not see your mates in a couple of weeks, you know, and then you go and you have that friendship again, you know, and you just start chatting. Oh shit, there's a footy match on.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you know, I mean, I think as well as, you know, sort of your mates and stuff like that, and you know, I've got a good friend of mine, Mark McColgan, who's up in Peebles in Scotland now, and you know, Liverpool ultimately has kept us friends really over the years. You know, when I was in Istanbul, I bumped into three lads from school that I hadn't seen for the best part of 20 odd years. A mate of mine, Dave McKerney, played for Liverpool, Crewe, Wigan, Morecambe. You know, we will always call each other when Liverpool playing a big European game. We've stayed friends through that. And then, you know, there's the family side of it as well. I mean, you know, I don't see my sister. I haven't really seen my sister since the lockdown finished not because for anything untoward, we go to match together. So there's been no footy, so I've barely seen her. And then my dad as well, you know, my dad's been with me all the way through the whole Liverpool journey. He still goes today. Probably the narkiest man in the Kemlyn Road stand. But he's 72 now, so he's got an excuse. But, you know, that'll be me one day. But yeah, so that's it. You know, it's friends and family connectivity, and you know, I think the thing about Liverpool being the biggest football family is it's a bit of a trite catchline, isn't it? But you know, there's a truth in it, in the sense that, you know, and what is brilliant about stuff like this is being able to connect with Liverpool fans who aren't from Liverpool but love the club just the same as us. I mean, would I get up to watch Liverpool at 3:30 in the morning? Well, I did when we played Flamengo in 1981, but I probably wouldn't now. I'd be like, got a hangover here, I can't be bothered. I'll tape it and watch it tomorrow. So, you know, there's a lot of commitment shown by Reds in Melbourne. You know, they get up in the middle of the night. Over in the States, you know, you're sort of 5, 6, 7 hours away from, you know, our time zone. So you're watching football at completely different times of the day to us. And I'm trying to work it out now. So which way round is it? If we play at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, that's in the morning for you, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not
9 o'clock.
Yeah, which is, you know, it's too early for a beer at 9 o'clock, isn't it?
No, it's not actually. Well,
so there you go. There's your reason for watching Liverpool now. It's just a reason to have an early drink, isn't it?
Well, we invented the because the pub isn't even open, you know, at like 6.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't serve, especially on Sunday. We invented like the garage bar, which is in the parking lot. So everybody brings, you know, some bevs with them, and
brilliant,
and then run off at half time and have a few more. So that's good, you know.
No, that's the way it should be. I mean, one of the Anfield Wrap experiences we had when we were in New York, it was the season that we nearly won the league, and we were watching the game in a massive bar in New York, 7 in the morning, and we beat United 3-0 that day. And it was just, I was so nervous for the game, but obviously then Liverpool win it easy. And we got to 11. It was 11 o'clock in the morning. We beat United 3-0. We were all wrecked, and because we were all having a pint of lager, but we were getting drinks bought for us, like shots and stuff. The bar staff were bringing over, and I remember my mate Mike Gerling, who's a good mate of mine from the podcast, same sort of age as me. He went 11 o'clock. He goes, "Who do you see? Who do you call?" And I was like, "Well," I said, "No one, because it's 11 o'clock in the morning and I'm wrecked." You know, but it was just, I mean, that's another great memory of watching Liverpool in different circumstances on, you know, on the other side of the world, really.
Yeah, it's tough, those day drinking. I can't really do it too much anymore.
No. I know you need to write off the rest of the day.
Yeah. Mike, I want to ask you, you've written so many pieces over the years. Is there 1 or 2 pieces that you look back and say, these really stick out to me, you know, what I wrote?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, I mean, I think probably the best thing I've ever written, purely because it comes so much from the heart, was the article on Hillsborough, because, you know, I was at Hillsborough. I wasn't injured, I was in the stands. I just saw it unfold in front of me, which was horrible, in a different way to people who had the, you know, the awful experience of being crushed, and, you know, those obviously paid the ultimate price. So for years and years and years, I never really sort of classed myself as a Hillsborough survivor, but in latter years, as it still preys on your mind, I've realised that I very much am, and I have counselling for it even now, 30 odd years on. So the piece I wrote on that, it's called The Sun Shines Now. I wrote it, it's on the Anfield Wrap platform, but if you put Mike Nevin Hillsborough into Google, it comes up straight away. So please go and have a read of that. It is a bit of a tearjerker, to be honest, but I'm very proud that when I had it published, people got in touch with me and said, "You know what, Mike, I read that and it helped me." And so that was lovely. But then, just in a lighter sense, the article on Graham Souness, which ultimately resulted in me becoming quite good mates with him. That's again on the Anfield Wrap platform. The Kennedy piece that's on your site, I think, is one of the best things I've ever written.
Yeah, that's good.
I really like that. There's a piece on John Barnes that I wrote for the Wrap, which is great. There's a piece on Dalglish, which I wrote for the Wrap. Trying to think of other things that I have written a lot of stuff. I mean, the stuff that I've got on Anfield Index in and around us winning the league. Some of that's I think really strong writing, because you know, I'm in a relatively unique position of being, you know, I was a 20-year-old lad when we won the league last time, and so and to be able to remember it and remember what I did to celebrate it. You see, I suppose other people who remember it might have been 10 or 12, so they wouldn't have gone out to celebrate it. They'd have gone home. But I pretty much did the same, because it was about the 8th league I'd seen in 11 seasons. Right. And I vividly remember going and having 3 pints, a bag of chips, and going home to watch Match of the Day. Now, compare that to this year's league, but the night we clinched it, I was sat on the top of the railings next to the Paisley Gates, like a teenager, with a flare in my one hand and a can of lager in the other. And I was thinking, I'm in my 50s now, and I'm celebrating like a kid. But when I was a kid, I celebrated like an old man. And you know, it's just little things, and there's little things like that that I've written, and about. I think there's one article which is called "How Does It Feel," and it was about, because people were saying, "How does it feel to see Liverpool win the league?" This was before we'd won it, and I said, "You know what? I can't really remember because I was a kid, and it's a long time ago." But then, you know, winning it brought back so many memories, and to be able to write about stuff like that and have it published for a wide audience is, you know, it's just a nice feeling. And you know, I think most journalists will tell you that the money in journalism is not fantastic, but anything that you get paid for writing about the club that you love is, you know, it's just a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it has to be. I mean, like, you know, we talked to Neil Jones, and he's the
Good
same.
guy.
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
man, great guy.
I did a drink with Neil about I don't know, a couple of months ago. Just bumped into him in a pub in Crosby, and he was with another mate of mine, Andy Kelly. So they both work on the Echo, and I just sat down. There's another guy with them, and spent 2 hours with him. I just like, you know, I've obviously been on the Anfield rap with him a few times, and I've met him socially a couple of times. And he's just a lovely fella, Neil.
He's like the younger brother of Stevie. He looks like him. Yeah.
Unbelievable, yeah.
He said the same thing, though. I mean, you know, making a career out of loving his favourite football team. I mean, you know, can't get better than that.
That's right. You
know, it's like drop microphone, walk off. You know.
Yeah, no, that's it. I mean, like another good friend of mine is Simon Hughes, who's written so many books about Liverpool. And you know, we actually go to watch the same non-league team, Marine. On his off days, he'll go and watch Marine, which is my local club around the corner from where I live. So we'll go and have a pint after games. We sort of end up talking about Liverpool, obviously. When we played Roma in the semi-final a couple of seasons ago, I stayed in Simon's flat. He was with the Independents. I had nowhere to stay. And he said, well, you just bump down. And in his inimitable Scouse tones, he went, just bump into our flat. The India paying for it, aren't they? So I went, oh, sounds okay. And he said, we'll have to get off in the morning, though. You can stay and just let yourself out. And so I let myself out briefly, took the key with me, went to see the Vatican, came back, had something to eat, and then I left as well. So, you know, it is not, one of the nice things about being a Liverpool writer is you get to meet all the other guys who do it, you know, as a full-time job, as a part-time job. And then sort of like Jeff, for example, Jeff Goulding. I mean, he works in the NHS. He's a nurse. And yet he's written, you know, he's quite a prolific author. So where I want to be in 2 years' time is to have the 85-86 book out. The piece I'm writing for you guys is about 81-82, which is a book I'm working on. But what I'm doing is I'm writing this as a teaser, really, to get people's interest going in the book. And I've also got an idea for a novel as well, which is based very much on personal experience of my life as a Liverpool fan. So it'll be part fact, part fiction, which I think it's got to be, because otherwise it's not formed from any reality. And you know, I do think that reality is stranger than fiction and more interesting. And you know, obviously the life I've had following Liverpool, going to Chelsea when I'm 15, I was in Paris when I was 13, trying to get in, but not getting in. And then I look back and think, 13 years of age, and I was in Paris trying to get into the Parc des Princes, and then not getting in, and watching the game on a portable black and white TV, having my first ever drink of Pernod and Black, and getting looked after by what I thought were old men. These old men were about 25, 28. They were just double my age, and you're all right, lads. You're on your own, lads. I was like, yeah, and you know, and feeling that, you know, that sense of community, you know, even as a kid. So hopefully the story of the novel, and I'll be honest with you, I haven't written a word of it yet, other than the fact that I've got a working title, which is called Under the Cosh, because it's a bit about my life going awry a little bit over the last few years in various very interesting directions. But
well, you could be
definitely.
Sorry.
No, I've definitely got it in me. So.
No, I was going to say, you could be like Jeff and pander to the blue side of Liverpool and write a fiction book called Stanley Park.
Well, I was in HMV, the music store, the other day, which also stocks books, and I'd spoken to Jeff the other day and said, look, I think I've got a novel in me here, and would you give me some advice about how to piece it together? Because I've never written anything based on any kind of fiction or exaggeration or anything like that.
Right.
And, you know, obviously Jeff being the guy he is, says, yeah, you know, anytime we
Yeah.
chat about it. Walked into the shop and the first book that hit me was Stanley Park,
Yeah.
which is his very own novel. And I was just thinking to myself, do you know what? I'm not going to buy it because there's every chance he might just let me have a copy. So apologies, Jeff. I owe you one. So, but then, I'll buy his novel when he's let me read it. Wait that one out.
Yeah, that was cool. Hey, as we wind up our session here, can you give us some thoughts about the upcoming season? What you're thinking?
Yeah, I think. I mean, someone asked me this the other day. Do you think? Well, it was a West Ham fan last night, in the very bar I'm in now. So I'll point over there. He's sat there. Lovely guy, same age as me, 53. West Ham fan through and through, but just like us, you know.
Yeah.
He just bought a different team. And he said, "How do you think of this season?" He said, "Do you think you'll retain the championship?" And bottom of my heart, I said no, because I think basically I think we needed to buy another striker because I love the front three, and we've been lucky really that I think the sports science has kept them fit, and they're three naturally fit guys, but you're only one sort of Chopper Harris, old 70s Chelsea player. You're only a Chopper Harris tackle away from an injury that can take you out for the season. And I think we've made that mistake in the past, even under Klopp. The season that we lost in Kiev, you know, we sold Coutinho and we didn't replace him. And when it came to the final, Salah gets injured. Firmino was knackered because he played too much football. Salah's off, and we bring in Adam Lallana, who hadn't played for 7 months. Right. And if Coutinho had stayed, or we'd replaced him with the money that we got there and then, we'd have won that final. And I think, you know, as much as I love Klopp, and you know who doesn't, I think he has got a stubborn streak in him, and he won't buy a player unless he thinks he can improve the front three. Well, you're not going to, but you need someone to supplement it, and I don't think we've got it. So the honest answer is I think we'll do well. I think we'll run everybody close, but I don't think we'll win the league. That said, I wouldn't put it past us to win the European Cup again. I mean, we haven't won it for a year. We're due it, aren't we?
FA Cup as well.
Yeah,
I'd like to win the FA Cup.
I was. Yeah, I mean, it's been too long. 2006. So it'll be 16 years now. We haven't gone as long without winning the FA Cup in our history, other than the time before our formation and winning it for the first time. And I love the FA Cup, and as much as it's nowhere near the competition it was, it still means a lot to me. And I'd love to be at Wembley with my son winning the FA Cup like I was with my dad in 1974. I'll end on that note. I'll end on a bit of romance. That's me all over that. But I'll come on again because I mean, there's so much that you can't explore.
Oh yeah,
now.
Yeah, we want to hear about your documentary and obviously, so yeah.
Yeah, no,
definitely. Have another session
I'll,
with you.
I can do an hour on that easy because it's such a fascinating story. I'll just give you like a clue. It's basically to explore the relationship between Liverpool, the city, and Norway. Because whenever you come to Liverpool for a match, and Steve, I'm sure you've been over several times, Daz, you're a local guy, you know what it's all about. You know, the city is full of Norwegians, and they feel at home when they come in. It's because they've been in before. Because Liverpool's a Viking city. Formby and Crosby, where Daz and I respectfully have lived or are from, are 2 Viking settlements. And all the places that end in BY, like Kirby, West Derby, Pensby, Eresby, Greasby, they're all Viking settlements. So the Liverpool Norse thing is, I think, a phenomenon really. You know, it's 2 countries so far away from each other, but there's this weird bond between the Norwegians. And I know a guy called Eddie and a girl called Mari, who are both from a place called they're from near Oslo, Askere, to be precise. I think certainly Mari's from Askere, which is about 20 minutes from Oslo. Now she's a Liverpool fan. She now lives in Liverpool. She's married to a Scouser, and she's just had a baby who's a Scouser. So that baby is a Scouse-Wegian, as they call it. And she's a Scouse-Wegian. She's got more of a Liverpool accent than me. And my other mate, Eddie Skirl, you know, I mean, he sounds like he's from the Dingle. Never mind, Oslo. So the documentary is it's about exploring those people and Liverpool's history with Norway. And there is a central theme, which I'll tell you about next time. Don't spoil it too much.
Sounds great. We can't wait to have you back on there to talk about it.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Defo, cheers, Mike, for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
No problem at all. Well, I'm in good company, aren't I? We've got Uso's been on. You've had Jeff on. George Sefton's been on. The dulcet tones of George.
Yeah, James Pierce.
James Pierce. I mean, it's a proper list of arty list, isn't it? You know. So yeah, I'm pleased to be in that company.
Yeah, we're our bank accounts are not going in the right direction because we keep buying all the books from all the guests that are coming on. So, I'm sure today I'm gonna have to add a couple more titles to it.
Yeah, we don't get given books like you, Mike.
No. you need to get on that scout's cheek. If you don't ask, you don't get, lad.
Just give it to me.
Yeah, give it me, will you? And that's the type of thing that you did on the playground, wouldn't you, when you went on the ball? Give us it, will you? Give us it. Oh, hey. Brilliant. Okay. Well, no, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, same here. I appreciate it.
Okay,
you have a good rest of your day.
Cheers,
Mike.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye.